The egg business is the worst farm business to be in, and I'm about to show you guys why. When I first started Goldshaw Farm, I had dreams of having this be an egg farm. I would get up every morning, I'd greet the 1,000 or so ducks that I had living across my pastures. I would go around and collect my eggs, and I'd be able to support myself and my wife by exclusively selling duck eggs to a local base of customers who were very dedicated to our product. But the harsh reality is, 3 years later, these things are not paying the bills. You know, one of the emails that I often get from folks who watch our YouTube channel is asking about the egg business and how much money do we make and do we turn a profit and would it be something that I'd recommend that somebody else starts up on. And so I wanted to make this video to break down the realities of the egg business and my experience with it so that others could have a sense of that if they're ever thinking about starting their own farm or even if they're just totally curious about the topic. Now you might notice you can only see 3 of our silkies right now. That's because the 4th one, she's been sitting on a little bit of a nest. Oop, hey, you can come back. I didn't mean to scare you away there, baby. You keep sitting on that nest there, mama, it's all cool. Yeah, silky chickens are one breed of chickens that loves to sit on nests, and so they started a clutch of eggs. I'm very happy about this. I should have some baby silkies very soon. Morning, chickens. Hey, how's the buff crew doing this morning? Good to see ya. How's it going there, Bruce? Enjoying it, ladies? Yeah, our buffs have become a very tight crew right now. They are really enjoying being back together. They keep a little bit separate from the rest of the geese, though. How's it going in there, Mother Goose? Things going well? You keep watching over your girls, it's all good. And Toby doesn't mind losing his house at this time of year. Isn't that right, buddy? For those of you guys who are concerned about Toby's housing situation, fear not. Number one, he loves sleeping under there. Like when we had a lot of downpours over the last couple of days, he was under the duck house a lot. He can also actually go sleep in the goose house again because I leave it open 24/7. So he's got options, so don't worry about Toby. I think he's proud and happy to be a goose uncle. He likes to stand watch over that goose in there and make sure nobody harasses her. Isn't that right, buddy boy? Release the Kraken! We got our first ducks on the farm in the spring of 2019. The first duck egg showed up on our farm in the fall of 2019. And it really didn't take me too much time to realize that this would never be a core business for our farm for a few reasons. The first reason is that duck eggs are hard to make profitable. So when you think about the price that a consumer is generally willing to pay for eggs, it can be challenging to make the economics of the whole business work. So around here in Vermont's Northeast Kingdom, you can easily get a dozen chicken eggs that are raised in somebody's backyard for like $3 a dozen. You can also go to a co-op or a grocery store or a farmer's market and get a batch of pasture-raised organic eggs from chickens for, you know, $5, $6, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm really trying to do like an apples to apples comparison here. So I'm not even talking about like industrial raised chicken eggs, but you got to understand that those industrial raised chicken eggs, they end up setting the market price that a consumer is also willing to pay. So that anchoring effect does take hold. And so because the chicken eggs are selling around here so cheaply, that's what motivated me to start raising ducks instead of chickens for eggs. What are you doing in here, geese? Duck eggs are not nearly as common and you can charge a little bit more money for them. What I've ended up settling on as a price for duck eggs here from our farm is we sell a batch of 6 eggs for $4 a half dozen, and then a batch of 12, it goes for $6. And I don't sell at farmers markets or grocery stores, and that's gonna save me some money with like the marked up batch that you're gonna see at one of those stores. But the thing about duck eggs is they're very, very labor intensive. So for example, here's a chicken egg that I just found this morning. And now compare it to this duck egg over here on the left. Notice how clean and ready to present this egg is and how relatively dirty and gross this egg is. Well, that hygiene situation with the duck eggs versus the chicken egg makes a huge difference. A lot more labor is gonna have to go into cleaning this egg to make it sale worthy than this egg. So when you think about the price you can charge for the egg versus the labor involved in raising that egg, the economics of it all are just pretty awful. And when you find yourself having to spend hours scrubbing eggs and hours selling eggs, you realize that the margin that you're charging for those eggs and what you're able to pay yourself as the business owner or pay yourself as the farmer gets to be pretty awful pretty quickly. Food for Mr. Toby Dog. Oh, Pablo, you gotta get out of there, man. Hey, Mama Goose. I'm gonna let you keep sitting on your nest there too, girl. Okay? Let's see what we got for goose eggs this morning. So this gal has been sitting on a nest for quite some time. Should be any day now and her eggs might start to hatch. But you just sat down on this nest. Excuse me, miss, I need you to get up. Just need this egg. You just laid this egg. Don't be upset with me. Got a chicken egg hiding out over here. Yeah, you guys are gonna be mad at me? Huh? And so in my early days of raising the ducks and producing the duck eggs, I'd started to do a little bit of math. And I realized that in order to actually make the money I needed to be just even break even profitable, I would need to scale up to at least 1,000 birds. But even then, as I start to scale up to 1,000 birds, I have additional labor costs, I have facility costs, cost of distribution goes crazy. Like the whole economics of it just become kind of nuts. And unless I'm going up to like a serious scale, and I'm talking like raising 5,000 or 6,000 birds, that's the only way I'm gonna ever be able to make that a regular business. The other important observation I made as I started to do my little test pilot business was realizing that ducks and chickens don't really lay year round. So most ducks and most chickens will stop their laying sometime in like November, and then pretty much all the way through to like February, they take those months off. There's less daylight, it's much colder, their bodies just need some time for rest and recovery. And unless you're doing things like using artificial light to really push their body to the limit so that they're maximizing production, when it comes down to it, I personally believe that the birds need that time to rest their bodies, and it's not good to try to push them past their natural production points. But if you're running an egg business, you need to be able to deliver eggs year-round for folks. There is a consumer expectation that you can have eggs at any time. That sort of year-round egg production is antithetical to my values. And then on top of that, you have to realize that the life of a laying hen is really only about 3 years before the production drastically tapers off. And so if I was considering the economics of my business again, I would need to be replacing my flock of several thousand birds every couple of years, and the cost from that also blew up. And I was actually never able to produce a spreadsheet where all of those costs actually made sense. And so all of this might have you wondering, if the egg business is so bad, why do I still produce eggs and why do I still have birds on my farm? And well, there are some good reasons for that. The first reason is that while the economics of the egg eating business are awful, the economics of the egg hatching business are amazing. So here on our farm, we sell duck and goose eggs for hatching. These eggs can be very valuable if you know that number one, they're fertile, number two, you know how to handle them, and number three, you have a marketplace of people who are interested in buying them. And so far for us at Goldshaw Farm, that's worked out very well. There's definitely a season to it, and this spring has been very busy for us from a hatching perspective. We're usually shipping out several boxes of eggs each week. I sell 4 goose eggs for $55 a box and 12 duck eggs for $50 a box. The goose eggs have a very limited season, really from like late February into, I don't know, mid-May. If you guys actually check our website right now, you might see a box or two available still for sale. I have my shipping costs worked down perfectly between the cost of using the US Postal Service as well as the cost of like packaging and bubble wrap and all the stuff I need to make sure that the eggs don't break. And the amazing reality is that at this point in the year, as I'm here sitting in May, I've now covered all of my costs for raising ducks, geese, and chickens on my farm for the entire year just by selling hatching eggs. That means that any income that I produce from selling live birds, any income I produce by selling birds for meat, or any income I produce by selling eating eggs, all of that is the money that I use as profit to pay for all the work I put into the farm, and that's how I'm actually making money. From a work standpoint, it's very easy. You know, I just basically collect the eggs in the morning, set and sort them aside based on the orders that I have. I drop off the boxes at my post office every day. From a labor standpoint, it works out to be about, I don't know, 45 minutes a day roughly if I had to count everything in. And it's also work that I find really rewarding because I like the idea of being able to share my ducks and geese with folks all across the country and help get them started with raising their own flocks. So while I never planned on being a guy who sells hatching eggs, I absolutely love selling hatching eggs. Now that isn't to say that there aren't certain challenges that come with hatching eggs. Number one, it is seasonal. I can't sell eggs in the dead of winter because oftentimes they freeze. The ducks and geese do have periods where they're not actually laying. There is breakage that occasionally happens in shipping and transit, and so I have to refund people or make good. And then I also find that I don't sell all of my eggs. If I want to sell eggs for hatching, I need to ship them out of the farm in no less than 48 hours. If I wait any longer than that, there's a risk that they're going to become unviable for the person who's trying to hatch them. And so I need to be hyper organized and on top of my collection game. And then the third issue that comes from trying to sell hatching eggs is something that I'm going to show you way out there in the orchard. Here we have the wild pond cat, taking a drink from a seasonal pond as it watches for rodents upon the savannah. Uh-oh, it looks like Toby's onto something. Wonder what it could be. Oh, I know what it is. It's some wild ducks. A lot of people have been asking me lately if we are getting any wild ducks and geese this year. The answer is no. Just like these birds, they take one look at my birds and turn away. In years past, we had a lot fewer birds, but now that we have, gosh, I don't know, almost 50 birds that we've had over the winter, they don't seem to want to stay here. I also think that Toby's presence does something to deter the amount of wild ducks and geese we have at the farm. So now I'm out here in our permaculture orchard. So we have roughly 600 trees out here. It's a mixture of chestnut, apple, black locust, mulberry, walnut, butternut. My dream is that someday this is going to become an orchard with fruit and nut trees everywhere that I can use to feed myself, I can use to feed it to my animals. This is like my long-term dream and hopefully my retirement plan, but it's a long, slow burn. And the reason I came out here though is because I was just checking to see if there's any duck eggs out here. The other challenge with raising ducks for eggs is that they will leave their eggs all over the place. They are not nearly as good at using nesting boxes as chickens or geese, and so it'd be a little challenging sometimes to find my duck eggs. So you can see here, right? My ducks like to wander out to the permaculture orchard. It's actually one of the reasons why I set the whole thing up, because my hope was that they'd be able to come out here and gather all sorts of insects and help with weed control and other things. So far they're doing a pretty darn good job. But I gotta say, it's been a challenge trying to find their eggs sometimes. And you know, last year, for example, I would occasionally discover a hidden nest out here that I'd have to break up. Speaking of hidden egg stashes, I just found this clutch of goose eggs. There's 4 of them here. I don't know how old they are, so I can't hatch them myself, and I can't try to sell them for hatching, and so they're just gonna become Toby food. Yeah, Toby, that's what $55 worth of dog food looks like. Uh-oh. I'm sorry I moved the ramp on you. Hang on, I was just about to put it back. You silly goose. So if there was going to be any one takeaway I would have for someone watching this video who wants to start their own farm business, if you're thinking about eggs, be really careful about it. Really do the math, really make sure you have a good business case, really make sure you have a resilient business case, and recognize that eggs, or at least a traditional egg-eating business, might not be the right thing for you because it's so labor-intensive and it takes a lot of time. But I think the other thing that I've learned as I've started this farm and have been working on it for a couple of years now is really it's never going to be all about just one business. It's going to take using the egg business, it's going to take having birds that we sell for meat, it's going to require selling baby birds, it's going to require having this orchard actually become successful. It's going to require all sorts of stuff. And in fact, that's even why we're adding cattle into the mix on our farm. Because ultimately, we know we need something like that to be successful. To have a successful farm business, you need to have an integrated farm business. You need to have multiple streams of revenue. And so don't just bank on any one thing. I think it'll make you a better farmer. I think it's made us better farmers.